Hello and welcome to We Could Do It Better with Jonah Maple and Grant Koven. I am Jonah Maple and Grant Koven will be coming around in just a minute. Today we have another packed
Joker makeup, by the way.
Yeah, probably could have done I probably should have given a warning for that. Today.
Oh, should I do like before the video starts? I should just be like, trigger warning if you've got clown phobia.
Sure, maybe. Yeah, if you're afraid of clowns, I guess this episode might not be for you. For more than one reason. We've got a packed episode today. We're going to be talking, of course, about the about TV shows, about Agatha All Along and the Penguin. We've also got some nerd movie news and a Speak No Evil review, and we've also there's been a lot happening in the world of comic books that we're going to talk about.
Oh yeah.
And then at the end of the episode, we're going to be, our main event's going to be talking about the Joker, things we love about the Joker, the first movie, and what we're excited about for the second movie. So let's get into it with our first segment, Multiverse of Movies.
All right, so Speak No Evil. We went to go see this over the weekend?
Yes,
right?
yeah, we saw it on, was it Saturday or Sunday?
I think we saw it. Yeah, it was Saturday.
We saw this on Saturday. It released a couple weeks ago, but it's a movie, so we're still not gonna spoil it.
We're busy college kids. It took us a while to get around to it.
Yeah, and also I hesitate. I was really looking forward to this movie, but I didn't see it for a while because I used to work in a movie theater. I mean, I still kind of do, but I'm not working there right now, and so I can't see it for free.
You're
like
a Regal
I used to.
loyalist.
Well, no, it was just more like I didn't want to pay for a movie because I hadn't paid for a movie in like 2 years.
Sure. But it was really good.
It was a good movie.
Essentially, if you don't know what Speak No Evil is about, it's kind of like I like to describe it as the opposite of Home Alone, kind of.
That's interesting way to put it.
Or it's kind of like Home Alone. Like the premise of Home Alone is you're like trying to keep people out of your house, with bizarre traps and unfortunate events. But with Speak No Evil, it's kind of the opposite, where the killer really tries to keep his victims in his house and do awful things to them. But there were plenty of like really good twists and turns. Definitely one of the more suspenseful movies I've seen.
Very suspenseful.
Because we were walking out of the movie and, we were kind of talking about, like, do we really categorize this as a horror movie? Because, like, I didn't genuinely feel any horror coming from that movie. I was on my seat the whole time. It was very suspenseful, but I don't think it was necessarily, like, raw, scary, like...
Yeah, it kind of gives, like, the feelings that, like, horror books or, like, comic books give you a lot of the time. Where it's just, like, you're just like, oh, my gosh. But, yeah, a lot of suspense makes you feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very good. It was written by James Watkins and others, directed by James Watkins. Star James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, Scoot McNairy. James McAvoy did a great job. Everyone did a great job. James McAvoy did a great job.
He's ripped too.
He is ripped.
Charles Xavier could never.
Yeah. I was a little surprised because I think I may have only seen him as Charles Xavier.
Yeah. I saw him in Split.
I never saw this.
You never saw Split?
I mean, I saw him both, and I never saw Split.
Yeah. That was it was just a fun little thing to watch over the weekend. A little nice getaway. So
it's a good movie if you like thrillers, if you like horror. I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a fair amount of those this year. Once again, I've been able to see movies for free, so I've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And it's in the top half. I don't know if it's like my favorite thriller or horror movie I've seen, but it's in the top half.
Yeah.
We have news that for the DC universe,
a lot has come out of the DC universe.
Yeah. For the DC universe is a Bane and Deathstroke movie, written by Matthew Orden. He wrote Moon Knight and which will soon release Captain America: Brave New World. Are you excited for this movie?
I am, because at first I was just like, what? Bane and Deathstroke are so random. They both come from it's not like they grew up together, right?
Yeah, well, Deathstroke is like a middle-aged
assassin.
Army industrial complex defected to assassin character.
Right.
And Bane grew up in a prison in the fictional Caribbean island nation of Santa Prisca.
Exactly. So I'm just kind of like, I think that this is great. Like, if this is the direction that James Gunn wants to take, and if we're getting two huge DCU villains, being
Yeah.
brought up together, I mean, I would love to see a team up. I don't know if it. I mean, there's a chance that it might be they verse each other movie.
Could be,
or at
yeah.
least they start out fighting each other, and then they're like, oh wait, we both hate Batman. I don't know, like, because they're both huge Batman villains, and
Yeah, more or less.
I wonder, because clearly Batman Brave and the Bold got announced before Bane and Deathstroke, so I think we're definitely gonna get that Batman Brave and the Bold movie
Maybe?
first. I would assume.
Do
so.
we know if it is it being like written right now though?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was supposedly at first going to be done by the same guy who did The Flash. Oh, what was his face? Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled about it either. I'm not sure if he's still on the project or not, but if we're getting Batman Brave and the Bold first, that means that, and it would make sense to me that you would, if you announced a movie after another movie, the movie that got announced afterwards would come out after the first, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I know like there are a lot of DC projects that have been announced that aren't being like really
Sure.
I'm excited for like I think both these characters are interesting. I mean, I'm not a big fan of seeing Bane I'm not a big fan of seeing Deathstroke as a protagonist, but I think Deathstroke is a very interesting villain.
Do we know that he's technically going to be a protagonist?
We don't know anything. Just that they just said it's a Bane and Deathstroke movie.
Right.
This could be interesting. I know something a lot of people on like Twitter is like, is this a Secret Six movie?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure like a lot of people I'm sure some people know about. We've never really had a Secret Six adaptation, which is a great series with Ghost Simone. And I'm interested to see like good version of these characters on screen, if that's what we're getting. Do you have any hope for this movie? Like anything you want to see?
Obviously, I would love. I think it would make sense if we get more than just Bane and Deathstroke. Like, I'm fine if it focuses on, just them. But I think for casual fans who aren't us, they would at least appreciate some hero dropping in or some well-known villain dropping in, because Bane and Deathstroke, like, they have seen a lot of other heroes and villains besides just Batman.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can bring in, or at least reference, a couple of other heroes just to keep people's interest there. I don't know what to expect, because as of right now, we haven't even. I have no idea essentially what the DCU is going to look like. Like, after we see Superman, I'm gonna get a better idea for kind of what the vision of James Gunn DCU is going to look like. But all of these announcements are kind of like, okay, we still haven't gotten our first DCU movie yet.
Yeah.
I hope it sticks. I hope it does. I hope there's, nothing gets canned or canceled. Like, that's the dream. But, like, we haven't even gotten Superman yet.
Yeah.
And how many projects have been announced?
Like, I don't know, 15.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I think DC is trying to compensate for the past almost 20 years because they feel like they need to catch up to Marvel.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I mean, I think in terms of like release date, they're going slowly. And
obviously I want them to take their time.
Yeah.
I want it to be a good movie at the end of the day. We do not need a rushed universe or just a bad universe, kind of like with Joss Whedon, Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
That whole cluster cuss went. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see this.
We also, from DC, there's a DC animated movie that was announced by James Gunn on Instagram. They announced that it's that Matt Reeves Studio is going to have something to do with this. It's called Dynamic Duo as of now, and it's going to be written by Matthew Aldrich, who also wrote Coco. Yeah, which is, I love Coco. Everyone loves Coco.
Yeah, I don't think anyone.
So yeah, it's great. It's going to be starring Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, which is great. So everyone that I've seen has been excited for this movie, unless they really like Tim Drake, in which they're like, no, but it's like, whatever.
Well, so I was kind of looking into like literally just now. I'm looking into because I heard that the animation style is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So according to Deadline, they're using something called Swaybox, and I quote: Swaybox uses technology known as Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI animation, practical effects of stop motion, and live action real time performance.
That's cool.
So I have no idea what that's gonna look like. I'm hoping like this almost rivals these Spider-Verse movies because this sounds like a huge animation triumph if it can be done right.
That is the highest expectation that you can put on
I know.
any animated
But
property.
if it's Matt Reeves,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
pretty excited.
they're just like in collaboration with his people.
I know, but just like the fact that
yeah,
he's
we
got
don't
his
know.
hand in it just
Yeah.
makes me feel better.
Yeah, and it's gonna have a theatrical release, which is good, because they typically spend more money on movies that have a theatrical release, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also Scream 7. I haven't seen the Scream 7
I know.
movies, but Scream
I
7
put-
is gonna come out in February.
Yeah, February 27th, 2026. So more than 2 years. Well, no, year and a half, about
Yeah.
year and a half. So that's pretty far away. I'm hoping. I know you haven't seen a Scream
I'll
movie?
watch them eventually.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Matthew Lillard makes his way back. Because I heard that also, because Nev Campbell, who played Sydney in the original Scream movies, was supposed to, I think, come back for the last Scream movie that we got. But wage negotiations didn't exactly go as planned. So she ended up backing out. So I'm really hoping like this is like a good legacy movie, and you bring back, all of the people that we all know and love, or at least I know and love. You don't know and love the characters like I do. But I think that would be like they're gonna make fun of all the tropes of horror movies, and they're always gonna bring back the guy that you thought was dead, and I know they're gonna make fun of it. But I'm still really excited to see how Scream 7 goes. But yeah, let's move on to Don't Change the Channel. We're not gonna talk about how should I phrase this? We're going to do a spoiler-free review of Agatha for
For the latest episode, the one that came out last night, episode 4.
Yeah.
But since Penguin came out on Sunday and it's a TV show, we are going to be talking spoilers for that. So Penguin episode 2 came out Sunday. We watched that together. I really liked it.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
I thought that he's doing a really good job of getting he's starting at the bottom, essentially.
Yeah.
He's how do I phrase this? He's kind of bluffing.
Oh yeah, there's so much line.
There's a lot of like poker bluffing. Like he's not showing his full hand, and he's keeping his cards very close. And he's not showing anyone else except for Victor, sort of. Like Victor is the kid that he kind of took in.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, no, I in terms of what we got for Penguin on Sunday, I was really pleased. I was
very pleased on how the story is developing. Like we're seeing more of these characters, and we're seeing more stuff going down.
Yeah.
And there's twists and turns.
It's unfolding. It's all unfolding
Yeah.
slowly, and it's going to be epic once we reach that.
Yeah.
series
Do you have any like any scenes, any moments that were your favorites?
So there was the one scene where Penguin, of course, killed one of the people that the Falcone family left alive from the Maroni crime family.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And at first, I was like, okay, Penguin's gonna work with this guy so he can lie about when he's getting interrogated about, who the rat is, right? Yeah. And eventually, Penguin just took it into his own hands and killed him himself. Yeah. Like he took a knife, and once the body was found, the Falcones were so mad, and suddenly everyone at freaking Alberto Falcone's funeral was getting questioned because now there's a dead body in the basement, and they're trying to figure out, okay, who killed him, and it turned into this epic, suspenseful investigation where everyone was getting searched for a knife at the party, and Oz had it for the longest time, but after getting into a scuffle with someone else at the party, he sneakily transferred the knife into a bodyguard's coat.
And you're made to believe based on how it's shot, like that he's gonna give it to someone else, but
I totally thought he was gonna give it to
Tony Ziti.
Yes.
But he ends up getting into the body because he's just making he's coming up with this stuff as it goes.
Which means it's interesting because it can go so wrong at any given moment, and it has. It has. When you go back to the first episode, he's butt naked in a chair getting tortured by the Falcone family.
Yeah, or the early parts of this episode where he arranged for like the Maronis to like shoot up the transport that he's going on, and then they make him go, and then then Tony Z makes him go in the thing, and he almost dies because he's getting shot at.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just making up as he goes, but he's making really good, smart moves the entire time.
Yeah.
I think the way that they I think Victor Aguilar, the way that they develop his relationship in this is really
I love the relationship that they're making together, because like Oz clearly has a soft spot. He could have, killed Victor in the first episode, and the more we see with this show, the more like Oz has definitely given him like the toughest love that you can possibly give him. I mean, he had Victor? Does he go by both?
I think it's Victor.
Victor. So Victor was literally digging a grave, and like Oz had him lay in the grave.
Yeah.
To show what happens if you're not, careful, and when you mess up, this is what happens. And I'm like, geez, this is tough love. But Oz eventually helped him out of the grave, and I'm like, oh, all right.
I think calling it even tough love is a little bit generous.
It's Oz's tough love.
Yeah,
I mean, He's going as soft as he can for a kid who did something like that to his car.
Yeah. Or he, he still has use for him. Maybe he knows that he should, off this kid or whatever.
Well, he also aspires to be that type of gangster who is forgiving and still had somewhat compassion.
Yeah, and helps people out in the community, like the speech in the early one.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he knows he's still, he's not a good person.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Penguin. He's not a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Like the way this ended specifically, him teaming up with Kristen Melodi's character. And great. Man.
We should share this because we made this mistake last week. The Penguin has switched airing times from Thursdays at 9 p.m. to Sundays at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Jonah came over last Thursday, and we were going to watch The Penguin, and we were waiting for it to upload to HBO Max, and I'm like, it uploads tonight, right?
Yeah.
And then I went online, and it's like they've started airing Sunday. So if you ever want to catch up on The Penguin, it's Sundays at 9.
Yeah.
Only on HBO Max. Is that an ad? Does that count?
No, I don't. No, they didn't pay us.
Okay. All right. Thank God.
All right. This weekend, people were saying we're gonna get cast. They were gonna get Jon Stewart casting news this week.
Really?
We haven't gotten that yet, so we might. Maybe they're just lying. Right now, it's in the air between two actors, Aaron Pierre and Stephen James,
which both look really good.
Yeah.
Stewart's like.
Yeah. I don't know if I've even watched anything with either of them in it.
I haven't.
But I've heard good things about those actors. They're young, which is good.
Yeah, carry the franchise 10, 15
years.
Yeah,
yeah, because I mean, I like Jon Stewart. A lot of people like Jon Stewart. We want to see.
I grew up with Jon Stewart in Justice League Unlimited.
Yep. And then Agatha All Along. We saw that came out last night. Once again, it's gonna be a spoiler-free review of episode 4.
Things get groovy. From what this has just been off of promo material, but the witches go into the 70s, a 70s era house.
Yeah.
And they have to essentially, what I've noticed, and as I was walking out of this, is it seems like thus far all of the trials have been escape rooms.
Yeah. And that's no spoiler. That's just stuff you can tell from the theater,
Yeah.
from the trailers. But I really like this. But just into general thoughts, I really like this episode. I think it does a great job at developing the characters and the relationships that we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
We understand each of these characters more. We especially understand Agatha. We see her character development. We kind of get her more.
I love watching the witches interact outside of the trials.
Yes.
Because they're not always going to be in the trials. They're at some point just going to be on the road, not having immediate danger face them. And there are some very interesting moments, and I feel like that's where we get the most backstory and even space for character development. Really.
I think the way the show does character development is very cool, because there's these high pressure situations when characters are acting another way, and then in like the lower pressure situations are acting a different way, and you're seeing like two sides of these characters.
Yeah.
On both the times, and like some of them like change more, some of them don't. You kind of see like the masks that they put on.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting, and a great thing that the show. I think a lot of a lesser show would take 5 witches and write them pretty much the same.
Right.
And they're not, or like the actors would act the same, and they're very much not doing that. They feel like they each have like their own backstories, their own lives, their own personalities, and we're seeing them clash and interact with each other, and it's just great. It's in shows looks beautiful.
It's amazing.
It looks it's very groovy. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It's very much October if you wanna if you're into that kind of stuff.
It is the perfect show to watch around
It is
October.
a great October. We've had great October.
Because what I did like about this episode is they definitely leaned into more of the scary.
Yeah.
For this episode, which not to say there hasn't been so much scary stuff in the past, the other 3 episodes, but I like the demonic and the scary and the all of the creepy stuff that happens. I'm just trying so hard not to spoil this for you
not
guys.
to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get into theories more next week.
Yeah.
But I definitely recommend this. I think October is turning out to be a great, this October is turning out to be a great month for a superhero.
Yeah.
For Nerdcon in general, but especially superhero.
Batman coming out, right?
A lot of stuff happening.
Well, we'll get to that later. Yeah. We're gonna quickly switch it up and go to Game Over. A lot has happened really most of this. Yeah, all of this is Fortnite stuff right now. There's not a lot coming out of the rest of the video game world, at least nothing super noteworthy. But there is a lot of cool, and like I play a decent amount of Fortnite. So if you don't like this segment, tough, you can skip ahead 5 minutes, and we'll see you at Comic Corner.
3 minutes now.
Okay. Well, you went over with the change the channel, so I'm gonna make this really quick. But Fortnitemares is coming up this month. That's where it's personally my favorite time of the year, where we get a lot of cool crossover skins, and there's going to be a ton of collaborations and even new places to explore. But in new and leaked art, new licensed characters such as Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is coming to Fortnite, which is so weird. Like, I get you bring in Michael Myers. You brought in Michael Myers last year for Fortnitemares, and I get it, right? He's such a huge icon to Halloween. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though, if anyone has seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that has no business belonging in a game where also the Incredibles now exist.
Well, I don't think that, this is my opinion of someone who doesn't play Fortnite. I don't think that they care very much about the intellectual property of like the stuff.
No,
that they're
I don't
using.
think they do either.
Because they have Batman in the game and he shoots guns.
Right, and Spider-Man. Spider-Man shoots guns too.
And like Batman and Spider-Man are specifically 2 anti-gun characters.
Right. So it's just but Leatherface in Fortnite now is historic because Leatherface is the first character to wear another skin's face on his face.
Huh.
Yeah. So we've got Leatherface, but also Billy the Puppet from the Saw movies. Have you seen Saw?
Nope.
No? Okay, you gotta watch Saw at some point. So from what we saw, he's on his little tricycle. So not only are we getting a skin of Billy, but there's also a weapon that you can use, and it's called the Boom Billy. And the Boom Billy, as which data miners describe as, is the weapon that spawns a Billy bike, which I can only assume is Billy on a bike, and it follows your target wherever you aim while delivering the line, "Do you want to play a game?" And then it explodes. So it slowly creeps after your target, and then it explodes when it reaches your target, essentially, which is just it's kind of dumb. It's kind of fun. I'll be interested to see how the gameplay goes. I'm sure at some point I'll have to have you over just so I can give you something else to talk about during the segment. But data miners have also found a Pumpkin King version of Jack Skellington from the beginning of The Nightmare Before Christmas, but they're not making it a selectable style for Jack. No, because that would save a bunch of kids money. It's going to be an independent skin that you have to buy, which I think is, you've got a selectable style for Jack already. So you've got the Santa Jack, where he dresses up as Santa at The Nightmare Before Christmas, and regular Jack. But they're going to make Pumpkin King a completely different skin that you have to pay probably like 1,500 V-Bucks for, which is absolutely insane and just goes to show that anyone will buy anything that Fortnite pumps out. But they're also bringing Sally, so you can, grab a friend and you and your friend can be Jack and Sally and, use Dr. Doom's fists and War Machine's arsenal and go crazy on everyone else below you. But along with Jack and Sally, or Pumpkin King Jack and Sally, Mephisto is rumored to hit the item shop, but nothing is really nothing is confirmed yet. It's all been speculation, but there's a Doom Forge in Castle Doom, and it all signs point to Mephisto, so at least I think he's going to make an appearance, and with some speculation with Agatha All Along, I think it's very timely that Mephisto makes his appearance soon. Also, I don't want to spend any more time than just this sentence, but Shaquille O'Neal is coming to Fortnite. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Jonah, take it away with Comic Corner.
Well, this is both of us. Absolute Power #4, the end of DC's big summer-long event came out yesterday. I read like all of it and almost all the tie-ins except for like the Batman and Green Arrow ones. But you just finished that.
I did
today,
literally 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, you read Absolute Power. Like, this is like the main series. I really like this. I've talked about this a lot. I think it's a great event. The tie-ins are great. The story's great. The art's fantastic. What do you think?
I loved. I don't read a lot of DC stuff, as you know,
especially in continuity.
So this was probably one of the first DC comics I've read in a couple of years.
Yeah, or at least as it's like. Well, you've read some, but like,
I've read some, but
yeah,
nothing.
But like not in continuity.
No continuity at all. But I was very impressed, and I'm actually almost excited because at the end of Absolute Power #4, they teased All In, which is something else I still need to read. Is it called DC All In or Justice
All
League
In
All
Special #1?
Yeah,
we've got it, right here.
And then Justice League Unlimited, which I'm not going to spoil the end of Absolute Power, but it is very cool because especially from what I saw from my childhood, I was just like, okay, this is pretty perfect.
Yeah.
But I loved Absolute Power. Amanda Waller's
Waller's great. Like one of the best portrayals of one of my favorite villains. Like what I think has become. I mean, she's always been, like since Jonah, since her creation in like '91, she's been a great villain.
She took it far.
Yeah, but especially
really far.
Especially over the past 6 years, and specifically in DC Comics over the past 2 years, she's been a great villain.
Yeah.
They've been developing her from like this morally gray spy to a more Machiavellian supervillain, where she she's not like as bad as like Lex Luthor or anything like that, because like she has like pure motivations or whatever, but she's the bad guy.
Pure motivations towards civilians. She has an Absolute Power. She does not have pure
Yeah,
motivations
she'll kill an
towards
Amazon.
superheroes. She was a monster.
She'll kill an 18-year-old. She has no problems with that.
It was
Art is fantastic.
crazy.
Because I think this is the first time you've ever read a book illustrated by Dan Mora.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
I was impressed. There were multiple
I'm sure
times
that was a treat for you.
I was reading when I was sitting reading Absolute Power #4. I was like, I just looked at you over the table, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah, beautiful artwork. He's gonna be doing the Justice League Unlimited series, I believe, and the ongoing Superman series, starting with the next issue. And he's just great. And, obviously, the event is written by Mark Waid, who wrote Kingdom Come, so it's well written. The tie-ins are great. I'm not normally pro tie-in, but these tie-ins just flush out the universe, make you and explores how this event affects the characters that you care about.
Yeah.
But you don't even, because you didn't read the tie-ins, you don't need them to understand the event. So that's great.
I understood it perfectly. You asked me after I finished it, and you were like, "Do you feel like you were missing any information with the tie-ins?" I'm like, "No." I think that's the perfect thing about the tie-ins. It's like it's just extra stuff.
Yeah, if you want to learn more, you can read them. Some of them are written great.
It's not pertinent to understanding the rest of the story, which I think is perfect. That's how you do it.
Yeah, some of them are decent, like the Absolute Power Task Force 7. It's like the whole thing is about understanding more what's happening to characters you care about.
Yeah.
But some of them are just it's not really even about the event. The Absolute Powers Origins. It was a 3-issue miniseries by John Ridley, who wrote who won an Oscar for writing 12 Years a Slave. It's kind of just about the backstory of Amanda Waller, and you don't need it, but it helps. It enhances the experience, and it's written so well.
Yeah.
And I cannot recommend this enough.
I can recommend it too.
I could be a hater. I could be but there's no reason for me to say that I love all of this stuff besides just I do, and I think you're gonna get a lot out of reading it.
Yeah.
DC All-In Special #1, probably the best-selling book for a couple months, came out yesterday. We've got it right here. I'm actually going to take it out because it's a flip book. We're not going to go into spoilers, so I'm just going to reveal things that you'd already know from interviews and stuff. It was art by Daniel St. Pierre, Wes Craig, a little bit of Dan Moore, and it's written by Joshua Williamson, who's writing Superman right now, is great, and Scott Snyder, who
I know Scott Snyder
because he wrote the best Batman run probably of all time, and it's great. It's about how Darkseid created the Absolute Universe, or they want to call it the Elseworld, but we the people are calling it the Absolute Universe.
Yeah.
And about the creation of Justice League Unlimited, which is going to be a new Mark Waid book that's coming out in November. But it's kind of I thought it was going to be this way, but it's kind of revealing that it's going to be about kind of like the Justice League Unlimited cartoon was, where it's all of the superheroes who want to be a part of the Justice League are part of the Justice League. It's no longer just 7 or 8 people.
Right.
It's everyone is, and whoever can help. So and I'm super excited for that. It's great, and it's well written. For a single issue, it's plus size, but it's only $5. But it's only $5.
That's not bad.
Because a lot of times issues this big will be it's almost graphic novel size.
Yeah.
But it's well written. The art's great. You get to see there's some of the coolest Darkseid moments I've ever seen, and I've read a lot of Darkseid stuff.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive. There's a cool thing where all the blood splatter looks like Kirby crackles.
Oh.
Which I think is very cool.
Okay.
If you know what Kirby crackles are, Jack Kirby, king of comics, also creator of Darkseid and New Gods. Created a special effect called the Kirby Crackles, with pieces of dark. You can see it right here on the cover. Pieces of dark there's just energy is formed in black circles, and I think there's a bunch of cool stuff like that. And it's the Darkseid side is mostly written by Scott Snyder, who's great at this.
Yeah.
only a couple other things came out this week. Birds that I picked up. Birds of Prey 14, the start of a new arc. It's great. It stays great. It's written by Kelly Thompson. There's a change in the art team, which I mean I'm gonna miss a little bit because I lost my favorite colorist, and we're gonna miss Leonardo Romero. But the art's still good. It's still written by Kelly Thompson, who doesn't miss. And if you have been reading this and you're like, I kind of miss old Birds of Prey, this feels more like classic Gail Simone. Birds of Prey or Chuck Dixon Birds of Prey. But like it's still great. I would recommend this for everyone who's into that kind of stuff, which I am. Also came out this week, Nice House by the Sea, #3. I think I might have convinced you to read this eventually because you saw some of the art on Instagram.
Yeah, I did.
And you're like, Jonah, I had no idea it was so beautiful. I was like,
I mean, it looks very like abstractly realistic on the outside.
Yes.
So I'm very interested to see.
What Alvaro Martinez. Yeah, the artists on that book are doing great. You know, it's by one of my favorite writers, James Tynion IV. Great horror writer. He's written some Batman stuff. But great horror writer. I recommend for everyone read the first series in this installation, Nice House on the Lake. I'll try to find you a copy, or you can read it online. Yeah, it's really phenomenal. And then also came out, or also I read. It didn't come out this week, but our comic shop, the Image messed up and sent our comic shop wrong versions of it.
Oh,
this came out a few weeks ago, but I just got issue 1 yesterday. Tin Can Society. It's an Image comic by Peter Warren, Francesco Mobley, and Chris Cuckery. It's a beautiful book.
It looks beautiful.
And you know, it's a murder mystery.
Taika Waititi said something on.
Taika Waititi. Whenever like a director or like Stephen King likes a comic book,
you should probably read it.
Yeah, like especially if it's an indie comic. They will be like, immediately, thank you, we're using your quote. So like half of like the horror books that you can find at like a Barnes & Noble will have like a Stephen King quote on them, just because they're like, oh, this is how we get like non-comic readers to read it. But you know, it's great if you like murder mysteries. The art's fantastic. And then next week we've got more big stuff coming out. We've got Absolute Batman #1, which is getting a lot of attention. It's probably going to sell out. Or at least, like, they predict it's going to sell out. It's also been by Scott Snyder.
There's been a lot of anticipation for Absolute
There's been a lot
Batman.
of anticipation. A lot of people are mad about it for some reason. Like, people get, this is how people in our community are. Like, people get mad at stuff before it comes out.
They get mad because they care. And some people prefer to see Batman one way. Some people prefer to see Batman another way. Just like how some people prefer to see Joker one way.
Yeah,
and some people prefer to see Joker another way.
But like this is, I trust Scott Snyder with everything. He's one of like the best writers to come in the 21st century. Best comic book writers to hit the market in the 21st century. Mm-hmm. He's proven that he gets Batman. And this is, you know, this is the Dark Side Universe's version of Batman. So it's not a normal Batman. So we've heard some stuff about it. I don't want to say what it is because I want you to be surprised.
Yeah.
But you know, it's going to be great. We're going to get the debut of Absolute Unit Batman, as he's affectionately being called, and the
just big and buff. Phenomenal.
Also, Terminator #1 is coming out next week, which I'm picking up.
You will be terminated, like that Terminator.
Yeah, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Which is coming out. I'm a fan of like some of the people who are working on that. I actually haven't seen the Terminator movies, but Declan Shalvey's writing it, and then someone I know from Comic Book YouTube, Sal Cavelli, not personally, but like someone I follow on Comic Book YouTube, Sal Cavelli from Comic Pop is writing it back up, and this is first mainstream work, so I'm picking it up. I'm gonna watch the first 2 Terminator movies this weekend, so I can get acclimated to it. So I'm really excited for that. So yeah, that's the end of that segment.
All right, and now on to our main event, the one that I promised you guys that I would do Joker makeup, and while some of you are listening live and you'll just have to take my word at it, Jonah's staring straight at to a face.
He is wearing Joker makeup. He's got like the white
even the
face
eye black on,
like eye black.
I was really mad. I've got this sounds really weird, but I do have a certain shade of lipstick that I was looking for, and I could not find it while I was scrambling on my way out the door. So I had to settle with a pinky purpley.
It's a purple. It's a purple.
Yeah. So maybe I'll do some color correction. So whoever watching this can be like, oh yeah, that's totally red.
I think most people, if they see that, they'd think, oh, that person's wearing Joker makeup.
Okay.
So
well,
you succeeded.
Mission accomplished.
Are you gonna be wearing Joker makeup tomorrow when we're watching
No.
the Joker 2?
Look, I've dressed up for a lot of premieres of movies. I did Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I was in my Spider-Man costume. Deadpool and Wolverine had my Deadpool costume on.
Is it just it's a different vibe when it's Joker? It
well,
feels different.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like if I could, if I really wanted to, but like tomorrow, I just feel like going off the radar. Like I don't need any attention drawn to me because like I'm here to just see it with you guys, and like I don't need anyone coming up and be like, "Oh, that's sick. Can I get a picture with you?" I know it's a burden. But yes, so we're talking about Joker and Harley, because you and I have very differing thoughts. We had a conversation right after this show last week.
It was like an hour long.
Yeah. Oh, it was more than that.
It was more than that.
We were just under 2 hours long.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where we because we disagree a lot about the Joker, and I think over that conversation I've come to understand your perspective more, and I hate the first Joker movie less. We'll get into that later. But what do you like about the Joker character?
He is a force to be reckoned with. Like I mean, most often I hear people refer to Joker as an unstoppable force and or Batman as an immovable object.
Yeah.
Or you can even have it flip-flop. Like they can go at each other all day. But what I love about Joker specifically is he's done so many awful things, yet he's just wildly fascinating.
Yeah.
I did a character study of him in high school for my theater class, and I looked at him across a bunch of other comic books, and The Dark Knight was really my primary inspiration. And like I guess I've had a deeper appreciation just because like I don't want to say I really got into his world because that would be completely disrespectful to Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix, because they've done amazing things to study for this character. But I at least got a little glimpse of kind of what it's like. But also like Joker's iconic. Like he's never gonna go out of style. I mean, he might lay low in certain comic books for a while, but he's never gonna go away. He's great. He's great.
There's probably been,
I shouldn't say that about a homicidal clown, but he's great.
Like as a character concept, he's very fascinating. I love DC Comics, especially. I mean, I love like. Batman's never like my number one thing, but when you've read DC Comics, you've read a lot of Batman or Bat family oriented stories. And even though the Joker probably isn't within like my top 5 Batman villains, there's just so many great Joker stories and great that you just can't. Even if it's not the type of character that appeals to me immediately, and there have been so many great Joker performances and so many great Joker stories written over the years, and I'm like, this character is. This is like all great Batman villains, such a great forward to Batman. The force of chaos that sometimes writers view him as, I think, is great because Batman's trying to keep order in a broken system,
and he just keeps trying to tear it down.
Yeah,
it's a tug of war.
Yeah, Joker's nihilism versus this is something I believe at the end of the day Batman is. Some people call Batman a nihilist. Batman is the opposite of a nihilist. Because Batman believes that every criminal can be redeemed. That's one of the reasons he doesn't kill people. He believes every criminal can be redeemed. And he thinks at the end of the day, Joker can be redeemed.
But Joker keeps proving that he can't.
But
Batman has to prove his one rule to be right, that you do have to ultimately.
And Joker is the ultimate challenge to Batman's ideologies. Where, Joker doesn't want to be fixed.
Right.
Like some of these like Man-Bat or Scarecrow
They
would
wanna
want to
be
be
rehabilitated.
they want to be rehabilitated. They want to be better, but no, Joker just wants to break Batman, and I think that's great.
And I love what Joker does to other people around Batman. He knows how to really get to Batman. I mean, I was just thinking about the Killing Joke, and like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like he does some really, actually it kind of is very similar to what Sophia Falcone does to Penguin with
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon. With when what Sophia did to Penguin to what Joker did to Commissioner Gordon
Yeah.
and the whole story. But like I love how he has no sympathy whatsoever, and he's completely unapologetic about everything he does, and it's all to get at Batman.
Yeah. You just want like we'll get to this later, but like a lot of the best Joker stories, and sometimes I do think that like in the Killing Joke edges on to like fridging, and that's obviously problematic and not great. Alan Moore is a big fridger, but like. But to me, some of the best Joker stories were Joker just wants to mess up Gotham, and he'll mess up Gotham just to get at Batman. I think that's very interesting. Do you have any? What are some of your favorite Joker stories?
So I actually recently gave to you I have a graphic novel of the Three Jokers by
which I haven't read yet.
Jeff Johns and David Fabok, and I feel like I've talked to you about it before.
I will read it. I think Jeff Johns is a good writer. I mean, like I don't think I'm a Doomsday Clock apologist.
Sure.
Which is kind of controversial in the comic book continuity, but he's a great writer. Jason Fabok is a great artist. I'm gonna read it. I haven't read it because at the same time there's Joker War, which is on my list. And I've heard like people like they accidentally made the same story twice.
Yeah. So I mean I do, and Three Jokers has a great ending that I definitely didn't see coming. You might see it coming. I definitely didn't.
Yeah.
But I also like Joker by Brian Azzarello. And it's I know some of these people who are watching or listening probably doesn't know, the artists or the writers that we bring up, but this Joker book specifically is kind of what I'll imagine for what the Matt Reeves Joker is going to look like, because of the scarring and just the overall small glimpse of personality that we got from the Batman. I can definitely see it kind of working out. I think that comic book just fits very well in Matt Reeves' universe.
It's more gritty.
Yeah.
It's a more styled down version of Joker.
Yeah.
Where yeah. My favorite ones. I mentioned Joker. I'll get to that later. My favorite Joker stories. I mean, obviously, The Dark Knight Returns and Killing Joke are fundamental. Like I'm not gonna like they're classic. Probably should read them. I'll argue but I think the best. But Dark Knight Returns isn't about the Joker.
It's a Batman story.
It's a Batman story, and he clearly had stuff to say about Superman and the other villains in that movie, in that book, but not as much to say about Joker. I think Death in the Family, it gets a lot of flack for how it dealt for what it did to Robin. First off, that's not Jim Starlin's fault. I'll stand by that. That's not Jim Starlin's fault. That was editorial's fault, and that was the fault of like the person that like found out a way to like call in like 1,000 times and mess it up for everyone. Also, it's a great story. The art is great by I think Jim Aparo. It's good writing. It gets a good fundament. It's a great fundamentalization of just how Joker is. It's just kind of like it feels more like Bronze Age Joker. And I'm sure there's a great other Bronze Age Joker stories I haven't read that you should probably read. I might have read some of them. For me, my favorite one of all time, you've also read this, Death of the Family by Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. This is the one where Joker...
Which is so confusing. We've got Death in the Family and Death of the Family. And for the longest time, up until probably a year ago, I thought they were the same thing.
Yeah, so that's because in the 2010s, there were some Batman stories that they were just like, we're going to make an allusion to the old ones we're going to change one word.
Which is dumb because people like me get confused.
Which 10 years later makes it confusing for a lot of people. It's a great story. It's the one where Joker cuts off his face and then like tries to and like
Puts it back on.
It's like it almost reads like a horror.
Oh yeah.
It almost reads like a horror comic book because Scott Snyder's great at writing horror. He's my favorite horror writer probably. Up there with James Tynion IV. And you get at what's scary about Joker. Because Scott Snyder writes, he's talked about this in interviews a lot of times. He writes stuff that he's scary about. And the Joker is kind of saying, hey, you don't actually love your family. Hey, you want, you like this. You want to be with me. And so it's paralleling stuff that Scott Snyder was afraid of. And it's, because Joker at the end of the day is a very scary character. Just someone who doesn't care about you at all. He just wants to mess stuff up. That is so scary.
He's got no limits.
Yeah. And the way that Scott Snyder deals with that, I think, is very interesting. I also love Joker War. I'm a sucker for James Tynion IV's books. This is, one of those other events where Joker, attacks the entire city. And it informs part of the reason why I don't like the Joker movie, because a big point of that is about how Joker, uses people and pretends to be political, but he just wants to get at Batman. He just wants to make chaos. He doesn't actually he's not an actual anarchist. He just wants to mess up with Batman, so he creates anarchy to mess up with Batman, and he gets people to work for him by pretending to be an anarchist who's mad at the system, but he doesn't care. He just wants to get at Batman. And it's great. That's where the character Punchline comes from. A lot of people love Punchline.
We probably should get to
Harley Quinn.
About what? Oh, are you talking? We should probably get to Joker Folia Do soon.
But real quick, another great Joker story, Harley Quinn story. Mad Love. There's either there's an episode of on Batman the Animated Series called Mad Love. There's also a comic book, but it's the exact same thing. And it's great. Everyone should watch it or read it.
So we need to talk about Joker Folia Do. We've got about 8 minutes left. I've always stood by the first Joker movie. I thought it was, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, they totally made Joker cinematic and beautiful and sympathetic and whatnot. Upon, giving it a couple of years, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's still an interesting statement about what they had to say. The initial effect of it, the wow effect of, seeing in theaters kind of has worn off just a little bit, but I am still in high anticipation for Folia Do, which we'll go see tomorrow night.
I think that the Joker 2019 movie is creatively bankrupt because they made a movie about a tortured individual who lashes out against the system, and they're like, oh wait, we can make more money if we put Joker in it, and that might be me editorializing, but I think that there are basic tenets that you have to, when you adapt a character and you say, hey, we're adapting a character from the comics. I think it's a different thing if you're doing an Elseworlds story. That's why I'm fine with
Is this not Elseworlds to you?
Well, okay, like in the comics, making an Elseworlds story in the comics, a what if story in the comics, where this is clearly a different universe where it's changed because Darkseid is in charge, or it's changed because Batman's family was killed by the church instead of a criminal.
But clearly this is not in any DC canon.
Yeah, but they're still calling it the Joker.
They call it just Joker. He was never referred as the Joker.
Okay. I don't think that okay, but you're adapting the character, and for a lot of people this is what people are going to think of when they think of Joker.
Okay.
But it's not about what the character Joker is about to me. To me, the character of Joker has never been Joker has always been purposefully apolitical, and this Joker seems political. It's about, and the Joker to me has never been it's not really a tragic character because Joker's a serial killer. He's a jerk.
Are you talking about in this movie?
In Joker 1. In Joker 2019, he's a serial killer. He kills 5 people.
Right. But he does it because he can, and he's insane, and the system let him down.
If you look at but people don't become serial killers because of the system. If you look at most of the serial killers in the U.S., they've all been white guys. Same thing with presidential assassins. It's if sure he's been let back, he has been sure he's had a tough life, but if being let down by the system is what made people serial killers and presidential assassins, then they wouldn't all be white guys. I'm saying this as a white individual myself. not saying that like white people can't like we can't like have tough lives,
We should move on. We're getting into some weird,
but like
uncomfortable
but
places.
like we as white people are not like the most repressed, you know.
Anyways, fully due predictions. What do you got?
I'm watching it because I will watch it because it's a DC Universe movie, or like a DC project movie. I'm scared that they're going to ruin the character of Harley Quinn if they make Harley Quinn and Joker love story, because Harley Quinn and Joker is about an abusive relationship.
Sure. Now I've kind of got two theories that kind of contradict each other, so they're kind of like it's kind of weird. We've got an A event where fully due means shared madness or madness for two or however else you want to.
I don't know French,
look at it.
I don't care.
But I think that either it's going to be super close and they're just going to be lovey-dovey the entire time and life is sunshine, rainbows, and musicals, whenever we're together. Or I'm hoping that this explores that everything is not beautiful, and because Joker has a really screwed up past when it comes to his relationship with Harley.
Yeah, or Punchline, or like there's like, or like just like random blonde women in the 70s.
Right. So I think it would be at least a little bit interesting if they go through trials and tribulations, or if, the fame gets to Arthur Fleck's head and suddenly maybe he starts to leave her in the dark. But also Harley seems like she also seems like a force to be reckoned with in this movie. Like she seems just as crazy as Joker, and part of me thinks that she wouldn't allow that to happen, which might be where conflict comes out.
I'm a little disappointed by like how pretentious they're like the advertising.
It looks very pretentious.
Because first off, the French title. They've also said, I forget, Todd Phillips or whoever said that like, oh yeah, Harley Quinn, which I'm sure like I'm glad that they're doing Lady Gaga. I think I love Lady Gaga. I think Lady Gaga is a great actor. But like, why are you taking away like the accent? Like, it's like, oh, that's so unrealistic. But like, this is your Gotham is either New York City specifically, or it's set in New Jersey, and like people talk with accents. Mm-hmm. Like having people not talk with accents, especially like a character who's talked that exact specific way since their creation in 1991. That's just like, you don't want it. I think Todd Phillips is embarrassed of the source material, and that kind of is like.
I don't know. I heard that this particular movie is a musical that's embarrassed to call itself a musical.
Oh yeah, he like in an interview, Todd Phillips was like, "Yeah, this movie isn't like really a musical. It's like using like the characters are using music to express the emotions that they can't say with words." And me and all of comic book Twitter was like, "Dude, that's a musical. You're describing a musical. You're just embarrassed by a musical." Specifically, he said, and this kind of was like, what are you doing? He said, it's not like we're making In the Heights, saying it's like, that's a musical that we don't want to associate with us because we're so much better than. In the Heights was a great movie. Have you seen In the Heights?
I've seen In the Heights.
It's a great movie. I'm sure the play's great too. I haven't seen, because I don't have Broadway ticket money, but it's a great movie. I don't know why you'd think you're so much better than Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I know that. It's very weird because I feel like I'm seeing not a lot of great reviews about this movie, but it's not going to deter me because I also looked at the first Joker score, and it also didn't do too hot either. It never went rotten, but it's definitely I think it was like in the 60s or 70s on Rotten Tomatoes. So I mean, if this is anywhere close to it, and like I think a lot of people, it's going to be selective. Like some people are going to really like it. Some people, you, are probably really gonna hate it.
Hey, if I like this, I'm gonna try to go into an open mind. If I end up liking this movie, I will be happy. Mm-hmm. I will not be mad if I don't like this movie. Like I understand I'm gonna have like some biases against like some things, but like if there's a good chance I end up liking this movie. It like if it ends up great, I will be happy. I'm not gonna be like, oh dang, I was wrong. Yeah, I don't have anything to hate about, because like as you guys can see from the show, I'm generally a positive fan.
Yeah. Just with a couple hang-ups every now and then.
Yeah.
And once you get him started, he won't stop.
95% of the time, I'm positive.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much our show. I think we might not do another main event because we're probably going to be covering a lot. I'm hoping we get that Green Lantern casting over the weekend. We'll definitely be able to talk about Penguin, but then we'll also be able to give our
review on the Joker.
Yeah.
Too.
So make sure if you guys want to go see it, I think you guys should see it this weekend, just so you have something that you can actually like think about while we're talking about it, because I'll probably at least keep some notes while we're in the theater of stuff that happened, stuff that I think that's worth talking about. But yeah, that's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you right back here next Thursday, 3 p.m., only on WCRD 91.3
and
FM.
And YouTube.
And YouTube, yes. I've been trying to upload our stuff to YouTube more often and quicker. So go check out my YouTube. It should be at Grant Koven. But we'll catch you guys later.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye.